movie of the month for January. G'day you lovely people, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you haven't been here before. My name is Kathy and this is where I talk about all my pet hobbies. Today is the beginning of another new series of mine, Movie of the Month. Last year I did another series called 12 Days of Movies where I featured some of my favourite films which people could watch over the holidays. I so love talking about another passion of mine, films, that I decided to create this series. Now, I am making no promises as to which films I will feature. They could be old black and white films or very new films, and it could range from horror to comedy. Now, before I get onto the film, I just wanted to mention that if any of the films are inappropriate for young children, I will let you guys know. Today's is definitely not suitable for young children, unless they're, I think, 15 or over. So let's get started with the movie of the month for January. Okay. I say okay a lot. In actual fact, today I'm going to be talking about more than one film, as they are part of a series or trilogy of films, and that is the Terminator series or Terminator Trilogy. There are actually other films to the series, but I won't be talking about those. I'm only going to be talking about these three. So let's start off with the very first film in the series, which is this, The Terminator. I really love this film. I actually remember when it came out in 1984 and I went to see it at the cinemas with a few friends of mine and we were just so blown away by the film, by the special effects, by the story itself. There was just so much going for it. And even though it has been, 26, 27 years since this came out, it still packs a huge punch. Now, as I said, it came out in 1984. It was directed by James Cameron and it stars Linda Hamilton, Michael Biehn and Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, which is a cyborg actually. Now, James Cameron has gone on to direct a lot of other things such as Avatar, which I really don't like, and Titanic, which I cannot stand, but his earlier works such as The Terminator, Aliens, True Lies, The Abyss, I really loved those films. Back then, I really do feel that Cameron was an excellent director, an excellent writer. He was certainly one of my favourites, until Titanic, I must admit. I think he had a unique vision back then. His storytelling was original compared to a lot of other science fiction writers. I loved the way he visually presented his stories. I loved the pacing, the plots, and he was always very good at picking the right actors for the roles. Arnold Schwarzenegger was perfectly cast as the Terminator. He was so damn good at it that I think his character is now quite iconic, and it should be. Okay. So I should tell you a bit about the story, but I'm not going to give you any spoilers. The story is really about an epic battle between machines and humankind. And a cyborg, played by Arnold, is sent back in time to kill a person. And that is all I really want to say. What I love about the story is that it messes with your head in relation to time travel. I always struggle with it, but that's what I love about it too. I actually don't know if the story itself is unique. I don't read enough science fiction to know, but it certainly seemed unique to us, the viewers. Now, I did read that a writer from the Outer Limits TV show sued the studio for breach of copyright. He claimed that Cameron's story was based on one of his. Cameron disputes it quite strenuously, but the studio did settle the claim, so I really don't know. I actually have watched The Outer Limits. I'm not as huge a fan of it as I am of, say, The Twilight Zone. And I do vaguely recall that story, but it didn't seem that close to the plot in The Terminator. All I can say is that when I watched it back in the 80s, when I watched it a few weeks ago, I was still blown away by the story itself, how clever it is, how well paced it is. Honestly, the tension in this film doesn't let up. You are constantly on the edge of your seat waiting to see what's going to happen. And the effects really were magnificent for back then, particularly considering this was made on a very small budget. Now, this came out in 1984, and the sequel, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, came out, I believe, in 1992. I must admit, I still struggle to decide which one I prefer, but I will say that T2, or Terminator 2, is one of those few films where it is arguable the sequel surpasses the original. I must admit that when I saw this at the cinemas, the special effects blew us all away. We were just stunned. We had never seen anything like it. And honestly, that doesn't happen to me very often. There are very few films that really stun me because these special effects are so good. And this is definitely one of them. But that is not what is so good about it. It is the way the story turned the first on its head. It is the development of the character Sarah Connor, which I absolutely loved in this film. The acting was superb. The child who plays John Connor was excellent in it. Really, there is no weakness in this film as far as I'm concerned. I just love it. I love both of them. And I still cannot decide, even to this day, which one I prefer. Now, I wanted to talk briefly about Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, the third in the trilogy, or this trilogy anyway. I really dislike this one. I think out of all the Terminator films, and I think there are 6 altogether, this is the weakest in my opinion. It wasn't directed by James Cameron, but that's not the reason I don't like it. I really don't like the story, the plot, and I particularly didn't like the acting. I thought it was quite mediocre, to be honest. So I am not a fan of this one. And really, I'm not going to say don't watch it if you want to watch the entire series, but this is not one that I recommend. Whereas these two, I highly recommend these, particularly if you are a fan of science fiction and you like films that mess with your head because of time travel. Okay, well, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you think of my choice. Have you seen the Terminator films, particularly 1 and 2? Do you like them? Do you hate them? You know I love to hear your opinions on them. As always, thank you guys so very much for hanging out with me. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye. It's stars. My choice of 4 today. Several. Okay. And likes a bit of... I have no recommendation.